Okay, so in this section, I'm going to be talking about the passing chords in the key of F sharp, passing chords. And understanding passing chords is very, very critical. When you're playing a song in any key, you've got to understand how to transition from one chord to another. So those are what we call the passing chords, okay? So passing chords, there are two ways that I usually tell my students to look at passing chords. A passing chord is a transition from one chord to another. It's like the bridge that is connecting two chords, okay? It's not a mandatory part in the arrangement, in the music. It's an additional movement that connects you from one chord to another. Okay, that's why it's called a passing chord. Without playing it, the foundation of the song will not really be affected. So a passing chord is a chord which is connecting you from one chord to another. Okay, and the reason why we use passing chords is to fill up the space between two chords. Okay, so that we are not hanging on one chord for a very long time before we move on to another chord, okay? So that's what a passing chord is. It's a chord that will help us to move to the next chord. So in this case, I'm just moving from F sharp to B major. So I'm using that A sharp minor 7th as a passing chord to B major. So that's an example of a passing chord. But now, most of the time, the passing chords we use are chords which are off the scale. Okay, what I mean is we use chords which are most of the time non-diatonic. Okay, now let's understand a diatonic chord and a non-diatonic chord. And a diatonic chord is a chord that is strictly moving along the scale. Okay, so if you check the section on scale degrees, you understand what the scale degrees of F sharp are. F sharp major, G sharp minor, A sharp minor, B major, C sharp major, D sharp minor, F diminished, back to F sharp major. So those are diatonic chords, okay, because they are chords which are moving along the scale. But when we are playing passing chords, sometimes we use some chords which are off the scale, okay? So we use some chords which are off the scale because, for example, here, if I'm using this D sharp major chord on my right hand and a G on the left, you realize that I'm using a chord which is not really on the scale of F sharp, okay? Because D sharp major is not on the scale of F sharp. But I'm using that as a passing chord to my G sharp minor. So passing chords normally, or most of the time, you realize that they are chords which are non-diatonic, meaning that they are chords which are not flowing within or inside the scale that you are playing in, okay? So when you think about passing chords, it's important to think of it in two directions, okay? You can either approach your destination from the front or from the back, okay? So, for example, if my destination is B major, my next chord in the song is B major, okay? I can approach this B major from the A sharp minor, or from the A sharp, or from the C. Let's just look at one note without looking at the quality of the chord. The quality of the chord we play may be different, okay? So when I'm going to B, I can approach B through C or through A sharp, okay? So I can use a passing chord of A sharp, a type of A sharp, or I can use a type of a C chord. It can be a C dominant 7th, it can be a C major, it can be, you see, any type of the quality of the chord of C taking me to B. So I hope you get that point. For example, when I want to go to D sharp minor and I want a passing chord taking me to D sharp minor, I can approach D sharp minor either from E or from the D side. So you can approach it from the lower side or from the upper side, okay? Now, another thing to note about passing chord is that there'll be a lot of slash chords used. What do we mean by slash chords? For example, when I'm going to D sharp minor 7th as my destination chord, and I'm looking for a passing chord to this D sharp minor 7th, I will, for example, play this A sharp dominant 7th with a D on the left. So I'll not play A sharp. Sometimes I'll play it, but most of the time we'll use slash chords. So for example, if I want to go to D sharp and I'm using A sharp dominant 7th, I'll use it with a D because I'm approaching it from the bottom side to my D sharp minor 7th. Okay. So there'll be a lot of slash chords used. Now let's get right into this now. Okay. I want us to walk through from the first chord, F sharp major, walking through the scale back to F sharp, okay? And I want us to look at the passing chords that we can apply throughout this scale, okay? From one chord to another, okay? So I'll be playing something like this. So you realize that at every point I'm using a specific passing chord. Now let's look at this. One of the most important tricks I can give you when you're thinking about passing chords is this, okay? The simplest way to find passing chords. Look at the destination and ask yourself, what is the 5 of the destination, okay? What is the 5 of the destination? For example, we are moving from F sharp major, chord number 1, and we are going to chord number 2, which is our G sharp minor 7th, okay? We ask ourselves, what is the 5 of G sharp? Now, at this point, you need to know the scale of G sharp, okay? Even if you cannot play a song in the key of G sharp, you at least need to know the scale of G sharp, the G sharp major scale. Okay, that's the G sharp major scale. G sharp, A sharp, C, C sharp, D sharp, F, G, and G sharp. I hope you have downloaded my free ebook, the Music at C Level, the foundational level 1 ebook. It's free. If you haven't, if you check the links to my tutorials on YouTube, in the description area, you'll always find links to my free ebooks. In that ebook, I have put the diagrams and all the major scales are illustrated there, okay? So you need to at least understand all the major scales, all the 12 major scales, at least, on your growth journey towards understanding all keys. So we ask ourselves, we are moving from F sharp major, and our next chord is our G sharp minor 7th, okay? Chord number 1, F sharp major 7th, to chord number 2, G sharp minor 7th. Now, we want to pass through this note, G, on the left, and on the right, we will ask ourselves, what is the 5 of G sharp? Going to the G sharp major scale, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 of G sharp is D sharp, okay? And normally what you'll do, you'll play the D sharp as a dominant 7th chord. That will be your passing chord. The 5 of your destination played as a dominant 7th chord. And on the left, you just play the note below your destination. So you have kind of a slash chord, okay? So you have your D sharp dominant 7th here, D sharp, G, A sharp, and C sharp. So if you look at my free ebooks, you'll find diagrams to all these dominant 7th chords, major 7s, minor 7s, 9s, augmented, all these types of chords are in my ebooks, okay? So that's a D sharp dominant 7th chord with a G on the left as our passing chord to our G sharp minor 7th, okay? So 1, passing chord, 2. Now, to avoid this kind of movement, we can use an inversion of this chord, okay? So we can push this up here.